Regulation of private schools, recognition norms and fee regulation. What does it take to set up a private school in India? As it turns out, quite a lot of things. Firstly, only non-profit entities, such as a charitable trust or a society or a Section 8 company, can establish schools. But each state may have its individual requirements under this Act. Only exception to the requirement of a society or a charitable trust establishing schools is the Haryana School Education Act of 1995, of which Rule 29, Section 1 permits all companies registered under Companies Act to apply for permits. Secondly, the respective society or trust is required to either own the school building or hold it in long-term lease. This varies from state to state. The minimum term of lease is 10 years in Uttar Pradesh and 20 years in Haryana. States such as Rajasthan and Karnataka specify the minimum area of land which is needed to be owned by the society. Apart from affiliation to a board for curriculum and obtaining a no objection certificate from the concerned state education department, private schools have to meet the respective financial and infrastructural requirements set out in affiliation rules and bylaws, get approvals from a host of public authorities such as water services, health standards, essentiality certificates, land use permits, etc., and procure registration certificates from the designated authority such as in the Karnataka Education Act 1983 and Delhi State Education Act 1973. While some of the norms pertain to child safety and health and are necessary, many others can have problematic consequences. Consider the case of the Dipalaya school run by an NGO for over 20 years in Sanjay Colony in Okhla, New Delhi. The school was operating in a low-income slum area and serving children belonging to poor families. There are scores of schools such as these which are running on the BPS model. Such schools charge minimal fees and operate with volunteer teachers. Most of these schools aren't recognized since they don't fulfill the recognition criteria such as government-grade salaries to teachers, land ownership, or minimum land area requirements. For schools like Dipalaya, which offered clean toilets for girls in an area where 1 in 4 houses had a functional toilet, a notice to comply with the norms meant shutting down. Dipalaya did not own the land it was running out of, one of the requirements of the RTE, and thus faced a shutdown. Requirements such as land ownership, playground, etc. are difficult for low-fee or budget private schools to provide, as they often operate in slums and low-income areas and run purely out of the small fees charged to the students. A study of affordable or low-fee private schools in Hyderabad noted that such schools receive infrequent and delayed fee payments, as the salaries of parents is highly unstable and fluctuating. With fees as the only source of revenue, it is difficult for schools to access funds needed to make infrastructural upgrades. Stories of school closures due to lack of compliance with RTE norms have emerged from across the states. In one district in Uttar Pradesh, the Department of Basic Shiksha imposed a fine of 1 lakh on each non-compliant private school. In response to a question raised in the Lok Sabha, the estimates of school closures over lack of compliance with norms are over 1,170 schools in Punjab and 998 schools in Madhya Pradesh. The list of requirements is endless. School buildings must be painted in white and repainted every 2 years in Uttar Pradesh. Having a veranda in every classroom is compulsory in Haryana. Minimum school area in Andhra Pradesh should be 6 to 8 feet per student. In Haryana, for primary schools established after 2003, the minimum area needed is 0.5 acres, along with the ratio of open to covered area at 35:65, and playground within 500 meters of the school. In Karnataka, this minimum standard is set at 2 acres in the rural areas, 1.5 acres in town or municipality or panchayat areas, and 1 acre in corporation area. What makes for a stark contrast is that Section 18 of the RTE exempts government schools from having to meet any of these requirements. Through a starred question in Parliament, Geeta Gandhi Kingdon estimated that less than 6% government schools meet the criteria, which has been prescribed for private schools. Besides recognition, the other big issue for low-fee or budget schools is fee regulation. The Supreme Court judgment in the TMA Pai Foundation versus the State of Karnataka 2002 case is often cited as the constitutional basis of fee regulation. The judgment laid down that states should devise appropriate machinery to ensure that there is no profiteering and capitation fees. However, a reasonable surplus to further education was permissible. What constitutes reasonable surplus and the method for estimating this reasonable surplus has proved uneven across states. As Shruti Ambas and Akriti Gaur note, in Islamic Academy of Education versus State of Karnataka 2003, it was held that each institute could fix its own fee structure, taking into consideration the need to generate funds for running it and providing necessary facilities for the students. The surplus so generated should be used to further the growth of that institution. Similarly, in PA Inamdar 2005 judgment, affirming the TMA Pai ruling, allowed private institutions the freedom to devise their own fee structure, which could be regulated to prevent profiteering and capitation fee. It is important to note that these judgments largely dealt with fees regulation in higher and professional education institutions. Dealing with schools in Modern School versus Union of India 2004, the court upholding the right of unaided educational institutions to generate reasonable surplus for development and expansion held that this autonomy should not lead to commercialization of education. Further, the private schools should follow the principles of accounting used by non-profit organizations. The framework for fee regulation thus comes down to: private educational institutions are allowed to make a reasonable surplus. The surplus has to be invested towards the development of beneficiaries, in this case, students, through improving and upgrading facilities and learning materials. The surplus cannot be used for profiteering by school management or others. Schools must not charge any capitation fees. Different states have adopted varying approaches to the issue of fee regulation. Tamil Nadu was the first state to enact such a law in 2009. Under the Tamil Nadu Schools Regulation of Collection of Fee Act 2009, district committees comprising of a retired High Court judge, directors from the State Education Department, the chief engineer from the PWD at the state level, district level education officers, and principals of government schools at the district headquarters will decide the maximum fees which can be charged by private schools affiliated to the State Education Board. There is no representation of private schools in these committees. Factors which will inform the decision on determining the fee amount include administrative costs of the school, its location, strength of students, classes of study, status of school infrastructure, whether it simply meets or exceeds the norms prescribed by the government, schools equipped with facilities such as air conditioners, etc. Schools can only object to the ruling given by the committee once. The fee approved by the committee is then fixed for a period of 3 years. Following Tamil Nadu, the Rajasthan Schools Regulation of Collection of Fee Act 2013 built a similar model for review of fees. The volume of applications by private schools for review of fee structure have risen with the rise in the number of private schools, creating massive backlogs in implementation of fee review by committees. As the Faces of Budget Private Schools report notes, Even though there are 10,946 private schools in Tamil Nadu for 2015-16, the Fee Regulation Committee on its website has announced the fee structures for only a fraction of these schools so far. In Gujarat, a Fee Regulatory Committee, FRC, was formed to decide the validity of fees charged by self-financed schools in Ahmedabad and North Gujarat regions. The FRC created fee slabs of 15,000 rupees for primary schools, 25,000 rupees for secondary schools, and 27,000 rupees for higher secondary schools, 30,000 rupees for schools offering science stream at higher secondary levels. Schools charging above the slabs are required to apply for approval, while those operating within the slab need to file an affidavit attesting the same. While 116 schools applied for approval to charge above the slab, 4,403 schools submitted affidavits for charging below the slab. Fee regulation rules have run into a host of legal complications, with many state courts ruling against prima facie illegal provisions, such as the search and seizure power given to district committees by regulations in Maharashtra and Rajasthan to enter into and inspect schools. Many other provisions have been contested by private schools, leading to a web of legal entanglements and lack of clarity. For parents, the concern with arbitrary fee hikes is genuine and important. But often responses by government to parents' demands consider high-fee schools, which make the news headlines at par with low-fee schools, and club them together under the same regulation. Private schools, on the other hand, complain that heavy infrastructure, teacher salary, and land norms make it difficult to cut costs. Both parents and schools seem constrained by budgets and recognition norms. Can you think of ways to resolve this issue? How would you design a regulatory structure for private schools, which is fair to parents, children, and the school management?